Hi, everyone. I'm Martha Henn, and on behalf of your Alumni Council, which I chair, and on behalf of Earlham Athletics, I'm delighted to welcome you to the annual Alumni Awards celebration, honoring Athletics Hall of Fame inductees and distinguished service and outstanding alumni award recipients. We owe a special thank you to Jerry and Nanette Rushton, who I believe are here tonight. Hi, thank you for your sponsorship of this event. Thank you so much. Before anyone can yank me off with the shepherd's crook, I'm giving a special shout out to EC84 in the house. We're here, the same as all other reunion goers, enjoying the thrill of connection, and we're going to have some fun. This morning at Alumni Council meeting, we decided that the most sensitive way to describe how far removed we actually are from our student days is to refer to the percent of discount you get at the bookstore. So we are a 35% discount group. Tonight we're celebrating sporting excellence and positive community contributions of alumni athletes. We're celebrating alumni achievements in the world, and we're thanking a stalwart professor for his years of teaching excellence. In just a moment, you'll hear from Earlham's new president, Ann Houtman. I hope all of you conspire to exhaust Ann by the end of the weekend with your greetings, best wishes, and opportunities to buttonhole her with your questions and suggestions. I think you will find her up to the challenge. I certainly have. As we begin, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence.
Thank you, Martha. I thought only Martha was allowed to ask the questions for all the alumni. Isn't that her job? Because I got about that much worth of questions from her, I have to. Good evening, Earlhamites, family and friends. Welcome to this celebration of the very best of Earlham through athletic and career achievement, through volunteerism, and through action. These awards recognize the full scope of Earlhamite excellence and achievement in hospital hallways, in the fields of competitive play, and even right here on this very campus. As a newer member of the Earlham community, maybe the newest, except maybe that little baby right there, maybe that's new. How old? 7 weeks? Hey, I win. I am today on day 120 days in. Woohoo. And I'm still at that. So you're counting weeks at least. I'm still counting days. Anyway, really one of the wonderful parts of my job is to learn more about the experiences and the journeys of our students every single day. I love that. And so it's also incredibly rewarding to me then to discover the stories of our alumni, as I've traveled around the country meeting you. And the journeys that they've made after their graduation on their journey of lifelong learning. That's what we honor tonight. The remarkable stories of 7 truly outstanding Earlhamites. The first of those is Finche Lehman, a member of the class of 1993. Finche was one of the college's great women's lacrosse players, as well as an outstanding soccer and field hockey player. The Quakers have a handful of All-Americans in its athletics history, and Finche is one of them, honored for lacrosse in 1993. The second is Carmen Duchamp, class of 2011. Carmen is our youngest honoree this evening, but her accomplishments will stand the test of time. Her achievements on the soccer pitch include being Earlham's all-time leader in goals, assists, points, and game-winning goals. I know, right? All those things. Goodness. Charles Chuck Meyer is receiving the Distinguished Service Award posthumously on the weekend that would have been his 50th reunion. We welcome his family and classmates. as we honor him for his work as a medical ethicist, counselor, and author. Chris Shaw, along with Finche, is one of 2 All-Americans being inducted into the Athletics Hall of Fame this evening. He dominated the discus as a member of the track and field team and still holds the college record of 167 feet, 1 inch. Gasp. I have to say, how can you do that? Chris also earned all NCAC honors as an offensive lineman on the football team. For the last 49 years, Steve Heine has been the college's greatest champion of the classics. Technically, he retired in 2012, but you wouldn't know it since he's still a constant presence on campus and in the classroom. He's already assigned me 1 reading, Sula by Toni Morrison. I just got assigned tonight, I got assigned Oedipus Rex for when I attend his next class. He's going to keep me busy. Generations of Earlhamites credit Steve with turning classics into an exhilarating learning experience through his passion and enthusiasm. Just make sure. Next, celebrating his 55th reunion this weekend, John Guthrie is a Hall of Fame inductee several years in the making. As a 4-year member of the Quakers soccer team, he was twice named Team Most Valuable Player, including during their 1963 NAIA Co-National Championship team. Congratulations on your reunion and on this honor, John. Where's John? Is he here? No. Hi. And finally, we have Avis Stewart, a man I am personally grateful to. I owe a great depth of gratitude for his excellent leadership prior to me stepping into the role of president last July. It seems like the Outstanding Alumni Award is actually the only award that Avis has not yet received. During his 39 years at Earlham, he was honored with the Townsend Community Center President's Award, United Way of Whitewater Valley Volunteer of the Year, Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce's Appreciation of Service Award, and the Art Vivian Distinguished Community Leader Award. In 2014, he received the Sagamore of the Wabash Award, Indiana's highest accolade for public service, and he was inducted into the Earlham Athletics Hall of Fame in 2001. I'm not sure, but I think tonight's award might just be one of his favorites. And again, I am so grateful for everything he did to make my job this year easier. I could say so much more about every single one of tonight's deserving honorees, but I see we have a planned program for the evening, so maybe we better get that underway. Please welcome our Senior Director of Athletics, Julie Klein, who will introduce our first Hall of Fame inductee.
Thank you, Ann. And on behalf of the Department of Athletics, we want to congratulate all honorees this evening. It's a tremendous accomplishment and well-deserved and well-earned, that's for sure, especially when we look over all the accomplishments of this evening. Finche Lehman's recognition is one of the more remarkable student athletes to ever wear the maroon and white. Sorry, let's start that over. Finche Lehman's recognition as one of the more remarkable student athletes to ever wear the maroon and white is not only appropriate, it is arguably long overdue. A 1993 graduate of Earlham with a degree in international studies, Finche was, to coin a phrase, a Renaissance student athlete. She played field hockey upon her arrival at Earlham in the fall of 1989, and then began what would be an amazing career with women's lacrosse that spring when she earned first team All North Coast Athletic Conference honors. When the fall semester of her sophomore year rolled around, she joined the women's soccer team as a goalkeeper, perhaps the most technically demanding position on the field, and again earned All North Coast Athletic Conference recognition as an honorable mention selection. Finche on-the-field exploits in women's lacrosse were again deemed worthy of all conference honors in both her sophomore and junior seasons. This time as a second-team honoree. In her senior season, she charted 51 goals and 11 assists for 62 points, earning her 4th All-Conference award, as well as a spot on the Intercollegiate Women's Lacrosse Coaches Association All-American team for 1993, where she was joined by teammate Christina Silas. Over her 4 years in the lacrosse field, Finche amassed 28 assists and 149 points, both Earlham records, and scored 121 goals, second most in the history of the program. Unfortunately, Finche could not join us here this evening, but it is my great pleasure to welcome Finche Lehman, class of 1993, into the Earlham College Athletic Hall of Fame. I know we have Carmen next, but I think there was a little delay at the airport. She'll be running in shortly, so we'll just keep moving forward on the program.
50 years ago, this past May, Chuck Meyer graduated from Earlham, along with many of you who are here with us this evening. Chuck accomplished much in the years that followed, becoming an Episcopal priest, a prison chaplain, a medical ethicist, a highly sought-after expert on understanding and dealing with death and grief, a chaplain to a wide community in the Austin, Texas region, a co-founder of Hospice Austin, a teacher at the Episcopal Theological Seminary of the Southwest, and an author of 9 books dealing with understanding and surviving grief, as well as practical guides to finding humor in a wide range of human circumstances. Starting in 1995, Chuck began writing a series of murder mysteries, 4 novels in all, beginning with the Saints of God murders, following Father Lucas Holt and his ragtag group of ex-cons as they solved bizarre murders in the Austin area. He was always looking for a film offer. Chuck's life was ended tragically in 2000 when his car was hit head-on while driving his wife Debbie to Houston for cancer treatment. While becoming an Episcopal priest would seem somewhat antithetical to Earlham's Quaker simplicity, Chuck's lifelong concern for the downtrodden, the suffering, and the grieving, and his commitment to community engagement demonstrated his adherence to Earlham ideals. His Earlham friend Loring Prosser said of Chuck, he had the temperament of doing really difficult stuff, working in prisons, hospitals, and hospices, while maintaining his trademark laughter and his ability to make others laugh, too. In 1999, as a thoughtful and dedicated stepfather to Debbie's daughter, Michael, Chuck wrote and published 12 Smooth Stones, a father writes to his daughter about money, sex, spirituality, and other things that really matter. Michael wrote the introduction to that book, and she is here with us today to accept Earlham's Distinguished Service Award on behalf of her stepfather, Chuck Meyer.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. So life is more than a journey. Life is a gift. It comes unexpected and undeserved. We didn't ask to be born. We don't get what we deserve, which is probably a good thing, and we most certainly don't deserve what we get. Chuck wrote this in his book, God's Laughter and Other Heresies. I'm his stepdaughter, Michael. To me, to my mom, to his friends and family, and to the world, Chuck was a gift. It is also a gift to be here with you to honor and remember him. Thank you, Earlham, for granting him this posthumous Alumni Distinguished Service Award. And thank you, Julie McGregor, for working to bring Chuck here today as part of this reunion. To the class of 1969, Chuck spoke so highly of his time at Earlham, and that was in such a large part of his time spent here with you, his classmates. During his time here, Chuck deepened his ethics, integrity, sense of self, and community. All are hallmarks of an Earlham education. In 12 Smooth Stones, Chuck wrote to me that I always needed to put my honesty and integrity first, to do the right thing, no matter how challenging. This is mirrored in Earlham's query about integrity. Do I seek the truth and speak it even when it's difficult? I have no doubt that Earlham informed his principles, and I'm so grateful that Chuck demonstrated them to my family, our community, and the world through his work and his play. When I was 17, Chuck brought me to Earlham as our first stop on my college tour. His twinkly-eyed excitement, joy, and respect for his classmates and professors shone through on our tour as he practically danced through the campus reverently, and sometimes irreverently, pointing out hallowed halls and favorite meeting places. Earlham held such a large place in his heart, and he wanted to share it with me so that I would have a high standard to base my college decisions on. In the only 19 years that he has been gone, I have heard countless friends of his ask, "What would Chuck do?" as a way to find a little guidance when times are tough. John F., who's somewhere around here, one of Chuck's best friends, who is here with us today, can probably attest that holding up to that criteria to one's life makes it simultaneously more difficult, more fulfilling, and more fun. 3 of the ways to answer that question that feel most like Chuck are: do what's good and hard. He would talk with integrity and grace on topics that were not easy, and with courage. Number 2, cooperate and don't budge. Chuck was a community builder with deep respect for others, but also a man of conviction and principles. Number 3, have a sense of humor and don't take yourself too seriously. Chuck would often quip that he was an aspiring murder mystery novelist masquerading as an Episcopal priest. So today would have been today's Chuck's birthday. So he would have been 72. For his birthdays, my mom and I would go to a local Tex-Mex restaurant and eat some cheese enchiladas, drink a Shinerbach beer, and then go see the spy thriller action movie du jour. Most importantly, we would talk about him, the trivial and the monumental stories of his life. So if you feel so inspired, sorry guys. Help me tonight by continuing the tradition and come tell me your stories of him. So thank you. Sorry.
So our last inductee was noted for her achievements across a range of sports. Our next inductee, Carmen Duchamp, put together a playing resume that is awe-inspiring for the singularity of purpose she brought to her team and the greatness that was achieved through her concentrated focus on a solitary task. To put it bluntly, on the soccer field, Carmen was a goal scorer, period, end of story. Named the North Coast Athletic Conference Women's Soccer Newcomer of the Year in 2007, Carmen also garnered all conference and all region accolades in her rookie campaign with 13 goals and 11 assists. She added another 19 goals to her credit in 2008 as a sophomore, repeating as a first-team All-North Coast Athletic Conference selection. Fast forward to 2010, Earlham's first season in the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference, and Carmen was tabbed as the league's Offensive Player of the Year, and the recipient of the first team honors both on the all-conference and all-region teams with 17 goals. Carmen completed her career at Earlham as the all-time leader in every major offensive category with 54 goals, 33 assists, 141 points, and 14 game-winning goals. Holy cow. Setting a standard that has yet to be approached, let alone broken. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome into the Earlham Athletics Hall of Fame from the class of 2011, Carmen Duchamp.
Hey guys, sorry for the late entrance. I can't do anything without a little bit of adventure. So I have to admit, when I first received the call informing me of my induction into the Hall of Fame, I was surprised. I was leaving a 13-hour day at the ICU and thinking about my patients, emails that I was neglecting, as Ellen knows, and the groceries I needed and everything else. And the last thing I was thinking about was the thrill of walking onto the field with a group of strong and beautiful women. I cannot believe that almost 10 years have passed since I was out on the field with some of the best teammates a girl could ask for. As honored as I am to be receiving this recognition, everyone who's ever been part of a team knows that I'm only a player that was lucky enough to be a part of something that was great. Every goal and every assist that it's credited to me is really a credit to the team. And that team is something I'm still a part of. And that team is not limited to 11 players that happen to be on the field, but also the professors who encouraged us, the Quaker Army who brought down fences for us, and our families who somehow adopted everyone. And most importantly, a community that is always the light when it is dark. My life may have come pretty far in the past 10 years, but not much has changed when you really think about it. No, I'm not still gearing up to play every weekend in a soccer game and then eat my fill of cookies, take ice baths, and ring the victory bell. But I still deeply believe that when you're part of a team, you can do a whole lot more than any individual can. In fact, everything that I've been able to accomplish is because of the amazing team and support that I have. And that team will always include the beautiful women with whom I played, the Earlham community, my family, including my parents, who's always had my back. So here's to my team. I love you all.
We're on a roll here. All right. While our earlier inductees into the Athletics Hall of Fame were noted for their accomplishments in sports, with a more recent history at Earlham College, our next inductee is being recognized for achieving excellence in a sport that may have the longest tradition for athletes wearing maroon and white, track and field. Chris Shaw was the second Earlham athlete to earn NC2A All-America honors with his fifth-place throw in the discus at the 2008 NC2A Division III Outdoor Track and Field Championships, which at the time marked Earlham's second track and field All-American in as many years under Coach Pat Thomas. Shaw earned his All-America award with a throw of 50.22 meters, or 164 feet 9 inches. For those like me, not very good with meters. Incredible. Chris' achievements in various throwing events included 3 North Coast Athletic Conference individual championships, earning 6 all-conference awards between indoor and outdoor track and field. He received the NCAC's Most Valuable Performer Award in the field events at the 2009 North Coast Outdoor Track and Field Championships, and set the Earlham's discus record at 167 feet. Not bad for a 4.5-pound projectile, I must say. 167 feet and 1 inch. And that record still stands today, by the way. Where else am I? I was so excited about that. His impact on track and field in the North Coast Athletic Conference was such that he was selected to the league's all-decade team in the outdoor track and field for the years 2004 through 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will join me in welcoming into the Earlham Athletics Hall of Fame from the class of 2010, Chris Shaw.
Wrong one. Thank you. I'd first like to thank Earlham College and all the athletic department as well. None of this would have been possible without the great coaches in football and track that I had while I was here, as well as the professors. And not last but not least, but also Bill Kinsey, who kept me going every day, because I was in the training room every day. And then also, last but not least, my parents. They missed one football game and one track meet my entire career. It was my sister's wedding, and I missed that one. She made it on a Saturday during football season. What'd she expect? During my time at Earlham, my track and field coaches were great, from Coach Johnson, Coach Thomas, as well as Coach Wise. They would do anything I needed to succeed. Most of the time, I liked to practice by myself. So I would call them up right after lunch, usually in between classes, and they'd meet me up at the ring in one of the gyms to practice alone. But they would do that for anybody, not just me. Some of the best memories I had was taking the 3-hour one-way trip in the Silver Surfer to North Central College to let me try to qualify for nationals my junior and senior year. We would drive 6 hours for 6 throws. That's it. So to do that, I mean, it's outstanding. One of the best memories, though, was in 2008 when I qualified for nationals along with my teammate Sarah Bohall. It was in Wisconsin, Oshkosh, and we pleaded to let the school let us fly, but we were 10 miles under the ring to where we could fly or drive. 1 hour into our 7-hour trip, we get a flat tire. So Coach Johnson, Coach Thomas, and myself were on the side of the road changing the tire in the Earlham minivan. But that was great that year. Earlham got 2 All-Americans, Sarah in the hurdles, and then myself in the discus. Again, I want to thank Earlham, all the professors, and all the coaches. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you.
Steve Heine is now in his 50th, yes, 50th year of teaching at Earlham College, having begun teaching in fall of 1970. Although, as Ann mentioned earlier, he technically retired in 2012, he has continued teaching. Throughout, he has been endlessly energetic in his love of teaching and with his students. In the process, he not only saved classics at Earlham, but helped it flourish so that Earlham was able to add a second position to the department. Perhaps Steve's greatest contribution to Earlham was arguably not rescuing and reanimating classics. Rather, his greatest achievement has been embodying the liberal arts ideal, and thus being a good citizen. He broadened his own mind by studying Japan and non-Western literature, by learning Hebrew, and by deepening his knowledge of history. In the process, he developed a relationship with students that is a unique combination of counselor, compassionate, caring, nurturing, and coach, pushing, challenging, and driving. His sense of humor helps to draw his students along, and his focus is on the issue at hand in discussions keeps everyone hooked. It is a combination that not only successfully engages his students, but also develops deep trust and affection for him. It is no wonder that Steve's students seek to be a good citizen like him. In sum, students need to see the liberal arts being lived, not just taught. Steve Heine has been the perfect citizen for this college, embodying the liberal arts ideal and thereby reflecting honor on Earlham. It is my pleasure to introduce Steve as an ideal candidate for the 2019 Distinguished Service Award.
I am honored and humbled by this award, but I have to lodge a mild protest. I have spent nearly a half-century in the Earlham classroom. What more could I want? That in itself is all the reward I could hope for. The Earlham classroom, animated by dialogue, approximates my notion of heaven. Only a liberating libation could add to the picture. After I thought about this, I had to ask Michael Burkle this evening if the mode of discourse in heaven is monologue or dialogue. If it's monologue, I'm less interested. I borrow Robert Frost's words about poetry to say that this classroom has been, for me, a momentary stay against confusion. The Earlham classroom I love was most deeply impressed on my consciousness by the Director of Graduate Studies in the Classics Department of Indiana University in the winter of 1969. He was a brilliant man and a brilliant teacher, maybe the only teacher I had in graduate school. But he suffered from some confusion. He asked me to name the schools to which I was applying for a teaching position. When I mentioned Earlham, he stopped me with the comment, "That's Bush League." I don't know whether we use the term Bush League anymore. A couple of years later, this gets better. A couple of years later, I met this same man when I traveled to Bloomington to defend my PhD dissertation. He stopped me in the hallway and asked me if I was still at Earlham. When I told him I was, he said that his daughter had applied to Earlham and that he hoped she would be admitted. This anecdote has taken on deeper resonance as I have taught here. It points to the chasm that separates what the world finds prestigious and what, in its moments of wisdom, it cares about. I cherish the ethos of this college, partly Quaker, partly Socratic, both of which sponsor a skepticism about the ways of the world out there. Classrooms promoting this skepticism promise us all a momentary stay against confusion. I am aware that the Earlham classroom I love is hard to sell. You don't have to tell any teacher who spent 50 years here that it's hard to sell. I know it's hard for those recruiting students to the college. The world outside does not warm to Quakers, I think, if it cares to know them at all, and everyone knows what it thought of Socrates. Plato tells us his fellow Athenians, in their confusion, thought him mad. The Earlham I love has always lived on the edge. It has lived on the edge in large part because of its character: skeptical, contrary, restless, unappeased, yet peaceful, welcoming, inquisitive, and loving. I cannot imagine a world in which the Earlham classroom would not live on the edge. To have been in the Earlham classroom for nearly 50 years feels like an instance of grace in my life. Words sometimes fail me, though Pat will tell you that never keeps me from using them and confusing everybody within earshot. Words sometimes fail me, but never more than now. All I can think to say is thank you.
All right, our final inductee for the Athletics Hall of Fame. When I first arrived at Earlham College and looked around at the banners that adorn the Drewry Performance Gym in the Athletics and Wellness Center, there was one banner in particular that stood out: men's soccer, the 1963 co-national champions banner. When I saw that, I was immediately struck by two thoughts. First, as a former student athlete myself, in addition to being a longtime head coach in several sports, and now an athletics director for several years, you instantly have to respect these two magic words, national champion. Those are few and far between. Second, I thought there has to be a great story behind why it's a co-national championship. And hopefully, our next inductee will be able to share something about both those facts tonight. John Guthrie was a midfielder on the 1963 team that holds such a special place in the history of Earlham athletics, not just in our men's soccer community, but in our entire community. In 1961, his sophomore season, in maroon and white, John was an honorable mention All-America selection by the National Soccer Coaches Association of America. He then stepped away from the program for the 1962 season to study in England. Well-balanced student athlete, we like that, where he also played with the University College London before returning home to Earlham and finding glory on the soccer pitch as a member of Earlham's only national championship team. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming into the Earlham Athletics Hall of Fame from the class of 1964, John Guthrie.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you, Earlham, for this recognition. We were invited to introduce ourselves via numbers. I'm a 55. My first memory of soccer is kicking a ball against a barn in rural Pennsylvania at about age 7. I loved the weird angles of the ball careening off the stone wall, and I played endlessly until the darkness of night shut me out. After that, I'm grateful to many people. In middle school, I had a coach, Jim Oliver, who was Scottish. In 11th grade at Westtown School, a referee asked me, "Are you Scottish?" Now that's impact. Now, in my junior year of college, I was fortunate to play for the University of London, traveling throughout Britain, and for games every Wednesday and Saturday for 6 months, including Wales, Scotland, England. At Earlham, Charlie McAlette coached our team to a co-national championship in 1963. And I'll add to my written commentary, if they don't mind too much, since I think it was slightly invited. Why was it co-national championship? Because we were playing the final in Frostburg, West Virginia, and it was ice and snow was so severe we could not play the game. The doctors said, no, we should not play when they were asked. And I was asked about whether we should play, and I realized we were playing the University of Vermont, who practices on ice. And we never saw ice here at Earlham College Soccer, so I said, no, I think it would be unhealthy. Now, I wanted to play. I do think we were going to win, but we didn't really have a choice. It was a doctor's decision. So at Earlham, Charlie coached our team in 1963. That year, we had a record of 12-1. The book says 9. In fact, we had 3 additional games. And so, in fact, in 12 games, we scored 60 goals and allowed 5. The average of 5-0 is a little bit unusual. Now, that record was not an accident. Charlie encouraged us to be a short passing team, controlling the middle, Barcelona style, long before Barcelona ever perfected it. Our record was possible only because we had an amazing range of talents, from Griffin Matega, our Kenyan, who had the hardest shot in the league, to Tony Diku, who was our 6'3" forward. In those days, 6'3" was unusual on a soccer field. He was unstoppable in the air, and he dominated on the ground. We had 4 track stars on the team. 2 were wings, who we could spring loose at any time we needed it. Bill Beardsley was a midfielder, tireless runner, who usually celebrated our wins by running a cross-country competition after each game. My job in the middle of the field was simply to get and keep the ball at the feet of these amazing teammates. At center back, Bert Bacon, our captain, was not only a stopper, but a record-setting half-miler, and he could run down any ball and any person who might want to get to that ball before him. With him, our defense shut out 7 teams. In addition to winning 12, we tied Indiana University, a soccer powerhouse that is now ranked number 4 in D1. If I'm not mistaken, tying a nationally ranked D1 team is unique in Earlham sports. Basically, though, we did not keep numbers. We did not play for numbers, and we did not play by the numbers. Moneyball was not yet invented. Because Charlie inspired us to be ourselves, we played for sheer delight. I recall the plays we made, not the scores we posted. We had diverse talents integrated into a network that played for the thrill of the hunt. That's what I call the Zen of soccer. It became a guiding force in my life. In my career, I always found a way to work with diverse individuals with a range of expertise fused into a tightly knit group sharing a common purpose. I'm grateful here today for this recognition of the milestone in my life, which was Earlham soccer. Thank you.
Avis Stewart graduated from Earlham 45 years ago as a member of the class of 1974. For 39 years, Avis has been one of the cornerstones of the Earlham experience and has touched the lives of thousands of students, alumni, faculty, and community members. During his storied career, Avis served in a wide variety of positions, starting in 1980 as men's head basketball coach, assistant professor of physical education, and assistant dean of students, and culminating as interim president during the 2018-19 academic year. Alumni from the mid to late 80s, including those from the class of 89 who are here for their 30th year, remember that Avis was one of the first faces they saw at Earlham as he sat behind Runyon desk in his position as director of Runyon Center. Avis once commented that his favorite time during his career at Earlham was when he worked directly with students and had a significant impact on individual lives. Avis will be remembered fondly for his work in development and alumni engagement, and for his significant roles as Vice President of Community Relations, where he worked tirelessly to strengthen the relationship between Earlham College and the greater Richmond and Wayne County communities. Throughout his career, Avis has been the recipient of many laurels and recognitions, as Ann mentioned, including Sagamore of the Wabash, Indiana's highest accolade for public service, and he was inducted into the Earlham Athletics Hall of Fame in 2001. Perhaps Avis's greatest contribution to the Earlham community will be his service as interim president last year. It was a time of great turmoil, both on campus as well as within the alumni community, and really no better person could have been in a position to grab the rudder and steady the ship. Avis's love for Earlham College and his dedication and care for others will be his lasting legacy. Please welcome and congratulate the recipient of the Outstanding Alumni Award, Avis Stewart.
Thanks, Martha, for the kind introduction, and you read that just the way I wrote it. I appreciate it. I want to begin by saying that individual awards like these are truly humbling and should be shared with all of those who have made this type of recognition possible. For me, that means my late mother and father, my 8 siblings, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my Earlham colleagues, and the many, many friends and teachers who have touched my life in some way. All of you should know that this is actually a culmination of your wisdom, kindness, mentoring, and belief in me. Each of you deserves a piece of this award, and for that I thank you. Honestly, it is difficult for me to accept this honor, since Earlham has given much more to me than I have to it. I'm thinking I should be giving something to Earlham rather than receiving the special honor from the college. After all, the special Quaker community took a chance on a not-so-polished, starry-eyed, 18-year-old African-American male from Marion, Indiana, almost 50 years ago. Not only did Earlham give me an opportunity that would shape my life in ways I could never imagine, this learning community instilled me with the type of values and confidence that has allowed me to live a meaningful, productive life. Trust me, if my childhood friends were here today, and some of my brothers and sisters and cousins, they are, but I know way too much about them, so they're not going to say anything. Many of them would be shocked, yet proud to know that one of the fellows from the neighborhood is receiving this honor. I won't go into detail, however, I will give you a little insight into our daily lives. Basically, our parents made sure all 9 of us pursued our education beyond high school. This alone was quite the accomplishment, since my daily trek to elementary school required my walking past a few houses of leisure in the city's most popular and possibly most dangerous late-night corner, 18th and Meridian Street, southeast corner, where the Little Harlem nightclub was located. Needless to say, my siblings and I didn't exactly grow up in the safest or most economically thriving area of Marion, Indiana, so I'd be less than honest if I told you that I thought I'd lived the kind of life that I have. That, however, is what makes this honor and this place even more special. Earlham College, this less than perfect but truth-seeking community, has offered life-changing experiences to many. I'm just the one who's being recognized today for the Earlham values that have been instilled in me and the many life lessons that all of you so willingly have shared with me. As I close, I want to congratulate the other award recipients: Carmen Dushan, John Guthrie, Finch A. Lehman, Chris Shaw, the late Charles Chuck Meyer, and my longtime friend and colleague, Steve Heine, on their many accomplishments and well-deserved recognition. Thanks to the Earlham Alumni Council for honoring me in this way. Thanks as well to the Earlham Board of Trustees and the Earlham community for all of your guidance, dedication, and passion, and for allowing me to serve as the leader of this special place this past year. And thank you to Earlham President Ann Hauptman for her willingness to serve and guide our unique epiphany-making community during these very challenging times. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure that anyone deserves this individual honor. However, I'm confident that Earlham College is a truly outstanding learning community that changes lives and must, yes, must, find a good way forward. And now more than ever, Earlham College, the place we all value and care about, needs us all to recognize its outstanding attributes by sending students, providing for students who are currently enrolled, and sharing our philanthropic resources. I'm sorry about that. Once a development officer, always a development officer. Seriously, Earlham College is what we need to honor and make sure we preserve in perpetuity, not me. Thank you.
Before we go, I'd like to say a couple things about the nominating process. For the athletic awards, a selection committee convened by Earlham Athletics and comprised of college staff and EC Club members reviews nominations. For alumni awards, a standing committee of the Alumni Council, the recognition committee, performs the same function. In both cases, we rely on all of Earlham's constituencies, student, staff, and faculty, but most especially alumni, to make nominations. The process hinges on your participation, especially alumni, who through their web of connections may often know far more than the college about the accomplishments of individuals whom we would welcome the opportunity to spotlight. So, as many alumni are looking for ways to engage or re-engage with the college, one way you can do that is to nominate those whom you know to be outstanding as athletes, as professionals, or as servant leaders of the college. On behalf of Alumni Council, thank you so much for your presence tonight. As we conclude with the final round of applause, I ask that it be both a congratulations again to our honorees and a thank you to our very dedicated and generous alumni volunteers of EC Club and Alumni Council. Good night.